Hi everyone, I'm Juliana and I'm 18 years old. I am the creator of the Stop Mental Illness account on Instagram. For those of you who don't know me, I've been suffering from depression for over a year now, and I also suffer from general anxiety disorder. I told you guys a few weeks ago that I would create a video, and for this video I decided to read to you guys something I wrote when I was trying to cope with my depression. Um, I feel like a lot of you guys can relate to it, although this is what I personally feel, so it might not be the same for everyone, but I know a lot of you guys can relate to what I've said in my paper. Um, the purpose of me writing this was um, to kind of get people to understand what we feel and how we feel and why we feel it when we're depressed, because I feel as if not many people understand what we go through and why we act the way we do when we are in a depressed state. Yeah, so it's called What True Depression Is, and yeah, I'll start now. Depression. What is depression? Someone who is miserable and unhappy? Someone who is broken and antisocial? Wrong. The happiest looking people can be the most depressed. So how do you know if someone is depressed? How do you know what they're physically feeling behind that beautiful smile and laughter? The mystery of depression remains hidden behind those who are not affected by it. Yes, depression can cause stress, can be caused from stress, family, work, and friends, but those are not the only influences. The chemistry of the brain contributes to the production and strength of depression. Sometimes there's just a chemical imbalance that needs to be altered back to normal. No, not everyone needs medication to rebalance these hormones. Simple exercising, eating healthy, and sleeping well can sometimes be the best medicine. But how does someone perform these simple tasks when depression is blocking the way? Depression is an illness. It is not like a common cold. It's a disease that affects a person physically and mentally. Some, some people may say that victims who suffer from depression are weak and pathetic. Those people need to think again. Those who suffer from depression are some of the most strongest fighters alive. Every day they battle to get out of bed and begin fighting another day of war. Depression consumes every bit of energy that's produced and leaves nothing left for typical daily tasks. Not only do they have to fight depression, but they also have to fight through the obstacles of the world. Those who judge, those who ignore, and those who bring pain. It hurts. A lot. After the daily battle, you may be left alone home to think, and a lot of the times cry. You are so exhausted from the day that sometimes you're even too physically exhausted to cry. But the pain we feel, that throbbing, heartbreaking pain in the chest, that cramped tight feeling in your lungs, that numbing tingle down your arms and legs, the voices telling you to hold it in and yet your voice telling yourself to let it out. It's more than just powerful. It consumes us, and that's when the real depression kicks in. When you needed someone to lean on and cry, who was there? Depression. When you needed someone to talk to, who was there? Depression. When you were frightened because you were at the point where you were crying so hard that the only reason you were crying was because you could stop crying, who was there? Depression. You could say that sometimes depression makes you happy in a negative way. Confusing, right? How could anyone feel so good when they're hurting so bad? For attention purposes, perhaps? Wrong again. Depression is the kind of sadness that we become addicted to. We get used to the numbing pain. This emotion becomes our normal average behavior. You're happy when you feel normal, are you not? We've become so addicted to this feeling that we emerge as the feeling itself. We begin to enjoy crying because we are so used to it, as it rids us from the negative impacts that have occurred throughout the day. It's as if all the negativities pour out of your eyes along with the many tears. Crying begins to feel good. You enjoy letting it out. until the next emotion decides to pay a visit. Yes, I'm talking about worthlessness. When this emotion comes, it likes to point out every little possible thing you can think of. It likes to blame you for everything that has happened throughout the day. It likes to tell you, you should have done this, now look at you. It wants you to give up. You see, the underlying difference between depression and worthlessness that's the underlying difference between depression and worthlessness. Worthlessness wants you to give up, whereas depression drives you to keep going in a way, while also bringing you down at the same time. So is depression really the bad guy, or is it worthlessness? Pushing away people is what people with depression do best. No, we do not do it on purpose. Why would anyone want to get rid of the people closest to us while we are feeling so down? So then why do we push people away? Sometimes we just need to get that alone time. It gives us time to organize our own thoughts, gather up all our strength, and prepare us for the fight. The fight against depression? No, the fight against ourselves. We are not being selfish by keeping things to ourselves. Sometimes it can be very hard to open up to others when every thought can cause you to burst out crying in frightful, seeming like everlasting tears. This is when depression fights against you. You want to seek help, but depression wants to protect you from the possible judgment and or advice that you might or might not want to hear, true or not. Depression wants to be there for you. It provides you with a shoulder. When we don't resort to the ones who do care about us, that's when they get hurt and feel like we don't need or trust them enough. The real truth? We will try to push you away as hard as we can, although it brings us more pain than anything in the world. We need you to show us that you care and you won't leave us. We want you to prove to us that you won't give up on us, because as long as you don't give up, we won't give up against the battle ourselves either. You're fighting with us. You're helping us more than you can ever imagine. You're the inspiration that keeps us from giving up the battle. It doesn't matter how strong someone may push you away. Remember that it's the depression that's pushing you. Though, through our eyes, the true depression of caring is knowing that you will fight the battle with us blindfolded, not knowing what the battle even is, because we would do the same for you in a heartbeat. Now, how does this relate back to sadness and depression? There are times when your body is sad, but you physically aren't. When you're fighting depression, sometimes you don't physically feel sad, but mentally you know you are. You don't want to cry, and physically you aren't crying, yet non-stop tears won't stop running down your cheeks. Does it seem like it can get any more confusing? Well, yes it can. You see, the problem with depression is that it's extremely difficult for others to understand how and why we feel the way we feel. Why do we say these awful things about ourselves? It just doesn't logically make sense, but somehow we feel this way. We may say things like, I hate everything about myself. I screw up everything. No one loves me, and I don't see why anyone would. Why do we say those things? Well, those things actually aren't said by us. We may speak these words, but it's the depression that's actually talking. Don't you see? We haven't gone anywhere. We're still in the body we once were before depression booked a long visit. Getting it to leave is the hardest thing to do because it feels like it needs to protect us. Not only do we need to let depression go, but depression needs to let us go as well. When will depression leave us? When it knows that we are physically stable enough to support ourselves. So that was my opinion on what depression is to me, and I hope you guys can relate and understand it a little bit better than you once did before. Feel free to, I guess, leave comments and let me know what you guys think. Yeah, so everyone have a great day and stay strong, and remember that these feelings don't last forever. You just gotta push through the hard times and you'll make it. Bye now.